Hey, everybody. I used to say this when I went a couple of weeks between videos, but now it's been like months. But hey, it's been a while. And so I just kind of wanted to catch everybody up real quickly here before I start the subject. Um, you can see I have a different background. I'm sitting in front of my record collection and sort of beside it. Um, I'm back living with my parents after my divorce. And I had always said that my man layer at the house was like a smaller, dingier version of this place. And if I were to show you everything, you'd go, "Oh my word, that's right." So it's got the paneling. Uh, it's great here because uh, they let me come back due to a little debacle with a place that I thought I had and didn't. At the last minute, it's like, "Oh, I got no place to go." So they took the dogs and I in, and it's been interesting. Mostly good, you know. It's a little weird, but it's good overall. We get along, and I think I've said before, my parents, especially my dad, are really where I got my love of music from. And so I've got all his records over here to listen to as well, which is great. All my CDs, except for what I bought this year, are in storage. So some of the videos I wanted to do, I don't have props for, and I've thought about maybe printing them off, pictures of them on the computer, but it's not quite the same. So I wanted to get back into doing videos. It's been a while. I really enjoyed it. I miss the interaction with folks. Um, so let's get back into it. And I've got my trusted cup of coffee. I've got Black Rifle JB blend. I believe it stands for just black. It's a medium dark roast. I think I've spoken about it before. I really like it. Got a bit of a kick to it. Good flavor. So anyway, and I will say too, this basement, my folks' house is a tri-level, so there are 3 windows down here. So I had to really work to find a place to where the light behind me wasn't worse than the light in front of me. Now, I want to talk about a familiar subject, one record I've actually discussed before. Normally I don't do a lot of overlaps, but this year on Record Store Day, this was released, and I've spoken about it almost at length before. Willie Nelson, live at the Texas Opry House, 1974. It was originally available as part of a 3 CD box set, the complete Atlantic Years box set, and it was put out on vinyl reissue this year. Mickey Raphael, Willie's longtime harmonica player and the best, not just arguably, the best harmonica player in country music, and one of the best it's ever been, worked on this reissue, did a fantastic job. He wrote some liner notes on the back here. And then for Record Store Day Black Friday, a live album came out that apparently had only been released on Laserdisc in Japan. I don't know if you all remember Laserdiscs. They were the size vinyl records. I didn't even own it. We didn't. They came and went in a flash. DVDs took their place pretty quick. But Willie Nelson, live at Budokan. This is 1984. And so this came out Record Store Day Black Friday. The 2 LP set did that I'm holding here. There's also a CD and DVD set. And so what I'm doing is a this or that, which I think I've only done one before. I compared a couple of live Neil Young records. And so I spoke extremely highly. We'll start chronologically. I spoke extremely highly of this. I've recommended it to friends. My friend Rob out in Canada, British Columbia, he actually ended up ordering a copy and loves it. And so, but I'm going to try and talk about it objectively. I have really loved this for as long as I've had it. I had the CD for a lot of years. So I took a couple of notes. This was recorded over the course of 2 nights, June 29th and 30th, 1974, at the Texas Opry House in Austin, Texas. This has 14 songs on it, 14 tracks. They are Whiskey River, Me and Paul, a medley of Willie's old '60s hits that he wrote for other people. Funny How Time Slips Away, Crazy, and Nightlife. The Bob Wills song Stay All Night, Stay a Little Longer, which has been part of his live set for years and years and years. Walkin', Bloody Mary Morning, with an interlude of Take Me Back to Tulsa, and it's a nod to Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys also, because on this album, in addition to Willie's road band, which was Jimmy Day on steel guitar, Bobby Nelson on piano, B. Spears on bass, Paul English on drums, and Mickey Raphael on harmonica, the great Johnny Gimbel, who was in a latter-day incarnation of Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, was on here. And then the party's over. Truck Driving Man, She Thinks I Still Care, which was a George Jones hit. Song that was a big hit for he and Waylon Jennings, Good Hearted Woman. Sisters Coming Home closed the set proper, and then they called them bonus tracks on here on side 4. Shotgun Willie, an electric guitar version of Bloody Mary Morning where Willie actually plays electric guitar, and then an alternate take of Funny How Time Slips Away, Crazy, and Nightlife. Now the CD actually has a 15th track, which wouldn't have fit on here. Maybe, I think it might have, but it was an instrumental called Willie's After Hours Jam, which was really good. Again, this was part of the complete Atlantic Years box set that came out back in the mid-noughts. This is pre-Red-Headed Stranger. So, you know, when Willie broke huge, but this is the sound of a band on the cusp of exploding. The energy here, these guys, you know, the average age of the band was about 40. Willie was 41 years old. Mickey Raphael was younger. He was in his 20s, I believe. But everybody else had been around a while. And again, I keep using the word, the energy was just frenetic on this. It's loose, it's fun. In particular, on side 2, the first version of Bloody Mary Morning, with the interlude of Take Me Back to Tulsa, these guys were a jam band. The musicianship on here was it's hard to describe, you know, when you hear a perfect or near perfect record, it's hard to describe in words how in sync the players were with each other, but yet each had a loose feel. Every player on here is highlighted. Every player was necessary. And you know, I don't know what else to say about this. I've spoken at length. Again, I've talked about it in a different video, but you may not have seen that one. So, you know, this was recorded, like I say, over a weekend in June in Willie's hometown. So this is a hometown show. It's a compilation of 2 different sets, and so if I had to pick a complaint, and maybe they did this just to reissue what was originally available, my hope, so my less of a complaint and more my hope is, release the entire set, even if it's on CD, you know, I hope not just digitally streaming, but even if it's on CD, release the entire collection, because the band here was on an upward trajectory. Yeah, Mickey Raphael, in the very brief description on the back, I had only been playing in the band for a year, but we had done close to 300 shows honing the sound. The show's raw energy and spirit of a racehorse heading for the barn are captured here, giving birth to a movement and a moment in time that still smolders. One, Mr. Raphael, that's poetry right there. And 2, Outlaw Country was not quite named Outlaw Country at the time, but this would describe it. It has a rock and roll feel to it, a live rock feel. And Willie's voice was excellent here. The band's playing was second to none. Besides just the energy, there's a joy here. There's a sheer joy of playing, and they're all working toward the same goal. And you're right, they were on fire, and it still smolders today. You know, 48 years later, this sounds every bit as good as it ever did. And then we move forward almost a decade. This was recorded February 23rd, Sorry for the glare there from the reflection from the phone camera. This was recorded almost a decade later. Willie Nelson was 50 years old here. He'd be 51 in less than, or just over 2 months. And while that has 14 tracks, this has 27 over the course of 2 records. The songs tend to be a lot shorter and more succinct here. I'll just read you the track list. It opens with Whiskey River, as almost all of Willie's shows have over the years. And then it goes into Mona Lisa, Good-Hearted Woman, Down Yonder, If You've Got the Money, I've Got the Time, Working Man Blues, Help Me Make It Through the Night, Me and Bobby McGee, the Chris Christopherson song, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, Under the Double Eagle, Blue Skies, Georgia on My Mind, All of Me, Stardust. And that's the first record. And then the second record, My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys, Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground, On the Road Again, Always on My Mind, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, the old Carter Family standard, a brief, less than 1 minute fake ending of Only Daddy That'll Walk the Line. That's just an instrumental. And then Willie comes back on. The last song, the last side of the set, Who Will Buy My Memories, Till I Gain Control Again, which is a great Rodney Crowell song he'd been doing live for a few years to that point, Without a Song, Lukenbach, Texas, which he sang on Waylon Jennings' old Waylon album with him. Show Proper closes with Whiskey River, and then about a 2-minute version of Only Daddy That'll Walk the Line, which they used to play as Willie was leaving the stage. The band is almost the same. Jody Payne and Grady Martin on guitar here with him, Mickey Raphael, B. Spears, Paul English, and Willie's older sister, although everybody called her little sister, Bobby. Excuse me a second. Oh, that coffee's good. So, this one has, because Willie had put out quite a few albums between 74 and 84, the set list is considerably different here. It focuses on a lot on his standards records, Stardust and Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I'm going to be crucified for saying this. I've never been a huge fan of those records. I like them, but they're not in my top 5 or 10 Willie Nelson albums. I did a top Willie Nelson records for me, and those just don't fit in it. And there's nothing wrong with them. Willie had great affection for them. They were played very well. But this is pretty heavy on those, especially side B, Blue Skies, Georgia on My Mind, All of Me, Stardust, Mona Lisa's on side A, Without a Song. Yeah, so those I actually like here a lot more. I like them in the live setting. One of my main complaints about country music in the 1980s was the production. Willie used Chips Moman a lot. The Highwaymen did too. I don't like the Chips Moman sound of the 80s. I like what he did with Elvis in the 60s, but I don't like the 80s production. So to hear these in a live setting in front of a rabid audience, what's really funny is, you've got one audience in Texas, and this is halfway around the world, and the audience was still appreciative. And, one of the main differences musically here is, while that was, like Mickey Raphael said, the sound of a racehorse headed toward the barn on fire, the band is still on fire here, but it's a more honed show. That does not make it bad. In fact, I love it. There's a tightness here that wasn't there that actually benefits a lot of these songs, because these songs are very different from those. In fact, when I did a previous comparison of live records, there were a bunch of overlapping songs. Here, only Whiskey River and Good-Hearted Woman are overlapping. In fact, most of the songs here are from 1975 to 82. There are none from 83 or 84 that Willie had just put out. But he relies mostly on Red-Headed Stranger and Forward, even though the only song from Red-Headed Stranger on here is Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, which was actually an old Fred Rose song from 1947, 8, somewhere in there. Um, the old hillbilly song, Down Yonder, which Bobby masterfully plays honky tonk piano on, and then Under the Double Eagle, both of those are instrumentals as well, and they showcase the band. Working Man Blues is interesting because Jody Payne sang that Merle Haggard song, and the band they did that on quite a few tours off and on. What's interesting is the medley of Funny How Time Slips Away, Crazy, and Nightlife has been a staple in Willie's live shows, but yet he chose to omit that medley here in place of a lot of other songs, and I have to tell you, I'm thankful. Not because I don't like those songs, but because they're on live from the Texas Opry House. They're on the fantastic Willie Family Live, which was recorded in 1978, and is a absolutely essential record as well. I almost thought about adding it, but I just want to focus on the 2022 Record Store Day releases and do the comparison there. And so I love the fact that he brings out songs here that weren't on previous live records, and some of them are not on any other live record either. I don't think My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys is on any other. And what's funny here is he changes it from the sort of slow lament that the studio version was. And I believe the studio version was on the Electric Horseman soundtrack, where he was Robert Redford's road manager. And there's a very crass little funny saying that I'll let you look up. Google or find on YouTube Willie Nelson Electric Horseman quotes, and you'll find it. But instead of a slow lament, it's about a minute and a half, and he turns it really into a shuffle here. And it's his singing. Willie's never been a straightforward singer. He's a stylist. But he followed the melody a little more on the older version. He's very too much coffee today, if there's such a thing. Very idiosyncratic on here. The Willie that sings today was really found here more than on the 1974 live record. But I enjoy this one tremendously. I'm so glad it got a wide release. Like I say, even if some of the songs come from albums I wasn't fussy on, I really like the versions of them here. And a lot of these songs can be found on other live records. Great version of On the Road Again. It's funny, as I mentioned that I'm living here at home, I was playing this just yesterday, and I listened to them to go back for the comparison. In a 2.5-minute fiery version of Will the Circle Be Unbroken, where it was played at breakneck pace, and Willie had some phenomenal guitar breaks in there. My mom actually said, they didn't really play it that fast. They sped it up for this. It was, no, they really played it that fast. In Willie's rhythm section, B. Spears and Paul English, neither of whom are with us, and rest in peace to them, and God bless them. Those guys were a freight train when needed. So anyway, now that I've spoken about them both, and I've sort of described the pros and cons, this is neat because it's one complete show, and I don't know for sure because I've never heard it, but I doubt that this is the entire set. I doubt that Willie only played 14 songs and they picked the better version. There had to have been more songs played because Willie's never played short shows. He was on the success of two really good Atlantic records, Shotgun Willie and Phases and Stages here, so this would be the Phases and Stages tour. Again, there were albums out, but this was during an Asian tour, a world tour, and so this was not necessarily in support of any particular record. The band is in excellent form in both. You've got the loose jam band energy here, the real outlaw country, and here you've got the fine-tuned machine that just thunders through. And I hate to pick between the two. And so I don't know why I even did this, and you're probably thinking, well, you dummy, why would you? Because same with when I did the Neil Young live albums. they're both great. And so I would rank this a 9, maybe 9.5 out of 10. And despite some repeats on side 4 and not having the whole show, I actually give this a 10 out of 10. So this edges out just barely, though. I don't have a lot bad to say about either one. The band was great on both. Willie's voice was phenomenal on both. His playing, the choice of songs. I love the fact that these really are two completely different live albums done just about a decade apart with a lot of the same folks. But I cannot recommend either one highly enough. So the winner between live at the Budokan and live at the Texas Opry House by a smidge, by half a star, is live at the Texas Opry House. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for your kind attention. People have reached out. They've still been commenting on other videos. I look forward to hearing your opinions if you know about these. If you have the chance, even if you can't get the vinyl records, get the CDs. If for some reason you can't get vinyl or CD, stream it. Listen to these. They're both incredible additions to any music collection, especially any country music collection. This was as real as it gets in both cases. So thank you very much. Now that I'm sort of settling back in, I hope to be doing some more videos. It'll be mostly vinyl based or whatever. But anyway, take care, everyone.